to this week's Mindset Monday for thought-provoking change. And since I'm not Jonathan, I'm Kate Ellis, his wife. I'm going to be running the meeting, but he did leave us a little message that Camille's going to play this morning.
Good morning and welcome to this morning's Mindset Monday, brought to you by Thought Provoking Change. Hey, we're so excited that you are here joining us live to learn more about yourself, to better yourself, to increase your level of awareness of what you need to do in life to achieve that next level. Hey, for the first time ever, I am not live and present with you guys. I can tell you, I'm missing you deeply right now. However, at the moment, myself and Dean Park, we are in the air headed out to San Diego for a mastermind event where we get to network with a lot of amazing people, some of which I have no doubt we'll be introducing you guys to before long. But we're out there for growth within ourselves. You know, if you're growing or...
He is obviously on a plane. Masterminds are a big part of our lives. So this one's been planned, I don't know, for a long time. Months and months and months. So it's finally here. So he's very excited. But today we're going to talk about resilience. And I think sometimes we confuse resilience with insanity. I think a lot of times we think of when we push ourselves through to do something else, to push through things, we a lot of times don't realize that we're just repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting new results. So we sometimes confuse resilience and insanity because we are not... Resilience, yes, is keeping going through adversity. Yes, that is absolutely what resilience is. But resilience is also linked with discipline. There's two ways you can look at this. You can come up against adversity and change your path. Just completely change it, go do something else, and not continue on that path. Is that true resilience? Sometimes it's necessary to change the path, but how much are you learning by just completely changing your path? Completely going a different direction. So we really have to look at resilience and linked with discipline. Because if we're not taking anything away from it and we are not changing and we are not attempting again, is it true resilience? We know those people who constantly get knocked down and then they get up and they do the exact same thing and they're not changing anything. And then you have the people who get knocked down and then they choose another path. They pick another thing. They go another way. You know, those people who are constant, you have no idea what they do because every week it's different. Is that true resilience? Not really. We really talk about when we link discipline and resilience together, you really focus on self-awareness, you focus on mindfulness, self-care, positive relationships, and purpose. And if you think of that, you're thinking how much of that is linked to discipline as well. With discipline, you have to have a purpose, you have to have positive relationships, self-care, mindfulness, all those things are part of discipline, and those things are linked. So we don't want to get into bad habits thinking we are resilient when we're really not. Where we're essentially allowing our bad habits to be okay because we consider them resilient. And so we need to really look at those situations and say there is a difference between a question of is this decision, is this path going to give me a new normal? Everybody is in different places. Danny is very much in a place where he wants and is ready for a situation where he's going to have a new normal. And that is very different than making a constant change. You know, oh, this didn't work, I'm changing, this didn't work. It's when you make a deliberate, a determined action step towards that. Good morning, Ken and Juanita.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
So if you weren't on it first, you know that Jonathan's on an airplane. He's very sad not to be here. So he has left the group in my hopefully capable hands. So I am here running this. So, but
Awesome.
You're doing
so
great.
Thank you. So when we talk about resilience, there's also practices we have to put in place. One is self-compassion, because resilience is really about you, not other people. It's not about other people's perceptions either. It is about you. Because we can only control our own actions. We can't control others. We can't control others' feelings. We can only control our own. Mental toughness. That is something that everybody on this call has, because we're all entrepreneurs, and that is a huge part of continuing down this path, is that mental toughness. And this is one that I'm really not good at, but I'm getting better at, is being your own best friend. Being your own cheerleader. You have to be your own cheerleader. We always talk about how we are our own worst critics. We so are. And so it is super, super important that we be our own best friends. And here's the biggest thing: accepting that failure is a given. Because once you do that, it allows you to have the freedom to try again. If you don't accept that failure is an option, then how are you going to try again? You have to accept that, not that it's the plan. It's just failure will happen at some level. And once you accept that, you have the freedom to say, okay, that didn't work. Let's make an adjustment, see what I learned, and try again. So there's a couple things we work with, is, you know, working about dealing with the resilience against stress, because that is always in our lives. And some of the questions that we want to make sure we're answering is, did we give 1% more than yesterday? Are we 1% better than yesterday? And the other big question about dealing with stress and the resilience to it is, will we be dealing with this same challenge in a year? If you are, then maybe it's time to look at a new normal. If you're still going to be dealing with this exact same stress in a year, what do you do to make the changes so that that is not the case? We don't want to be dealing with those same stresses unless it's on a higher level, unless you're scaling and that's the plan. But when it's really causing you the stress that you're evaluating it, is it something you want to be dealing with in a year? You know, and make those changes. So my questions to you today is really, think about a time that things didn't work out the way you wanted them to. Okay. And what did you do? What did you do? Okay. This question is asked to us a lot. When was the time that things didn't work out and all that? My thing is, what did you learn? And here's the end part of it. Are you still applying what you learned to new situations? Because a lot of times we come up against a situation, it didn't go like we planned. We learned something from it, but are we applying that to new situations? Are we leaving it in isolation? Are we leaving it just with that situation? Are we looking at it from a broader perspective of how do I apply this to different situations? So I just want you to think, and if anybody who would like to share first, but something that didn't go right. I see brains like going mad right now. There's a lot of thought. Okay, Danny.
I'm gonna be like really quick because I'm at work. So one thing you did say that hit me pretty hard was being your own best friend. Because I beat myself up a lot, like I'm constantly like, oh, like you're a loser, you're this, you're that. So one day I sat down and I thought about it and I said, do I say that to my best friend when he fails? No, I push him to go be harder on himself. I say, come on, stand back up, go get it. Like my best friends, like they fail all the time and I just push them even harder and tell them, keep going, like you're doing great, this and that. So I sat there and I thought, okay, if I'm myself's best friend, why am I beating myself down? I don't talk like that to my best friend. So why would I talk about myself like that? So I just think positive now and I just write positive words on my journal. And I just like, okay, so if I did this right, then I'm gonna keep doing that. But if I did wrong, what did I do wrong? What did I mess up on? And then another thing is, being resilient took me a tough time to become resilient, but I figured that like, and like times end, I would just work harder for what my goal is. I also learned how to be stoic. Stoicism is basically, I don't know if you guys know that word or not, but it's when something's out of your control that you can't control. Like if it rains today, I can't control that. So that's another word that I kind of relate to resilience, is being stoic, because there's things you can't control and there's things you can control. So I just compared two and two together and I just combined them and I'm like, okay, if I can't control it, then why would I let it get to me?
I love that. I love that advice. If you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. If that's not how you would encourage your best friend.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Cause
That
my
is-
best friend, I mean, two of them sell cars with me. So we all graduated from high school. We've been friends for like 7 years and they're like, oh, I can't sell a car. I can't do this. I can't do that. And the other day I sat down with one of them, I poured into him and like an hour later, he sold a car. And I look at him, I'm like, well, see, there you go. You just needed a little kick in your butt and you're good. So it's the same thing with me, I relate it the exact same way.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for listening.
Lisa.
So I like to say I plan and God laughs. And and I've kind of adapted that to my life. I make plans and my vision doesn't usually, I mean, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So it's just like, okay, what do I need to do, change, pivot in order to get to where I want to go? Or the other thing is, has the goal changed now because I see it differently because I started the journey and now that I've taken the first few steps, I realize the goal has changed and I need to pivot anyway. And that's just God or the universe, whatever word you would like to use, helping me along the way. And I feel like it's a gift now. So when something doesn't go my way, I'm like, okay, 1, what am I learning from this? 2, what's the better outcome? Because I'm going to get something better because my way didn't happen. And it happens time and time again that because it didn't go the way I envisioned it, and people would call that failure, not failure. It's just feedback on what you're putting out and what's coming back to you. It's just a little pivoting, and that's how I look at it. I feel it now.
Love it. There is a book I read, it's called It's Not Supposed to Be Like This. And it's really about setting expectations, and that's where disappointment comes from. And the difference between setting a goal and an expectation. Sometimes we set expectations saying that this is what's going to happen in a situation, and instead of setting a goal that can be changed and altered, we tend to be disappointed when expectations aren't met, versus saying, okay, Jonathan and I are all about, he's more fly by the seat of his pants, which he loves. I, however, am a standard operating procedure kind of person. I was raised by an Eagle Scout. You know, we have all the things we need. And so for me, when I plan things out, you know, with as many kids as we have, there's no choice but to plan, or we would never get anywhere or get anything done. We would never have a meal. It would be complete chaos. But the biggest thing is we talk about how our plan always looks fabulous on paper. And have to know that in real action, it's gonna change. You know, I have learned over the years, which for somebody who's like, here's how it's supposed to be, this is how it's supposed to run, that is something that I had to learn to adjust to. Is okay, all this looks great. It looks great on paper, but in real application, you know, so I still plan like I've always planned. I just plan a little different. There's a lot more wiggle room in things, and a lot more movable pieces in it, so that because I don't want to be someone who runs up against a wall just because I set something up and then it completely falls apart, versus being flexible and changing. But knowing the difference between goals and true expectations helps remove some of that disappointment we have. So, Ken, do you have a time or something you've learned that you're still applying?
One of the things, to piggyback off of what you said about expectations, I posted in the chat one of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins is, trade your expectations for appreciations and your something for discipline. And that's definitely something that I've taken into account for myself over the last probably 3-4 years. And, you know, I'm way more happier than I used to be, for sure. And, you know, for me, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to have the least amount of regrets possible. So
Absolutely.
and then to go back to what Danny was saying, another thing that I heard a long time ago and hit me just like it hit him is, you know, the way we talk to ourselves, you know, you never would talk to your best friend like the way what you have going through your head, you would never say out loud to somebody else. And so that's a huge thing about being able to just come up with those positive affirmations and keeping the right words in your head. Even if you have something positive going through your head, just tweaking one word can make a huge difference. Like if we say, one of the things I've started doing is saying, instead of I have to do something, is I get to do something. And that just changes my whole outlook on whatever it is I have to do.
I have a perfect story that goes with that. One morning, our youngest came in. It was a Sunday, we were getting ready for church. And he came in and he's like, I have to go to church. He was tired. They had stayed up too late playing video games. And normally he loves to go to church, but he was just tired. He's like, I have to go to church. And Jonathan goes, no, Van, you get to go to church. And Van got all excited. It was like he had just been given this opportunity. And right there was just a prime example of how those words matter. And in literally seconds, it was turned around. And he was bouncing out of our bedroom saying, I get to go to church. And nothing had changed but how the words were presented.
Isn't that crazy?
So it's very much so. I absolutely understand what Ken's saying, because it was right there in front of us. We saw, literally he was smiling from ear to ear. And it was like, okay, we looked at this different. I've been given this opportunity, looking at it an opportunity versus an obligation is always very exciting. Michelle, do you want to share? I know you're not Jonathan Ellis, but you can be Jonathan Ellis today. Is she on there?
Oh my God, it's actually kind of loud in here, so I'm not sure. Are you
Okay.
hearing me loud? Or it's just fine.
You're coming through clear. We can hear you.
Well, I guess what can I say? Um, I think for me, being resilient is having that courage to do things like try new things. Like I should not be tough on myself, but I think I really need to be tough to myself. Like I really have to challenge myself to take bigger risks, like compared to what I am doing at with my current situation, something like that. So if I would just stay with where I am right now, where would I go? Right. So I think I have to be tough to myself once in a while so that I could move forward, something like that. So it's really a big challenge for me doing this kind of things. Like it's really out of my comfort zone since I've been studied. If I studied as a medical technologist, and look at me now, I'm doing things like on a computer base. I'm working from home instead of going to the hospital on a regular basis. It's really a big decision, but I'm learning, and I think that's very helpful for me.
And that is one of the biggest parts of resilience, is the learning component.
Yeah, exactly. Like you see yourself like, oh wow, I did grow a lot, like compared from before. Like I was excelling. So something like that. So I'm really kind of like proud, like I'm pushing myself. I'm trying to be hard to myself, but at the same time, I really try my best to be soft. Like I have to motivate myself still, regardless of
Yes.
being tough to myself.
Yes. Well, really looking at those things of, am I learning from this? Am I applying that? Am I truly doing the things for myself? Because when we talk about resilience, it comes back to us. Comes back to us and our discipline, and knowing, we all know we have the mental toughness. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be on the call. These are things that increase our mental toughness, is being able to allow people to pour into you and to pour into other people. That's part of building your mental toughness, is having those. We, as a teacher, we always, are you filling other people's buckets? But also, you can't fill from an empty bucket either. You can't fill someone's bucket if you are empty. And so that is a huge part of that resilience, is knowing that you're pouring into yourself and pouring into others, because we become very good at pouring into into others and not as much into ourselves, and that affects our ability to be resilient, to make those choices, to truly learn, and not fall into bad habits and think that you're being resilient when you're just operating on bad habits. So, did anybody else have anything they wanted to share? Well, thank you
I'll
so
go.
much. Oh, Juanita.
Yeah, sorry, my camera is off. I'm currently at the airport waiting for my flight. I just wanted to say, to me, resilience is to have the courage to adapt my plan. So I have this goal, I have this vision, I have this map, and sometimes we get disheartened along the way when we have to tweak some few things here and there. It really takes courage to keep that hope up, to keep that drive, that passion to reach our goals. So for me, resilience means being able to have the courage to adapt our plan as we go along, and to, at the end, get to the destination where we are supposed to be at. Sometimes our vision is an ideology. Sometimes we need to, along the way, learn some lessons so that we know, oh, this is what we were meant to do. It might not be completely what we thought it would be, but it's the best scenario for us. So that's my input. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you, y'all, for being here and supporting me as I led this week's Monday Mindset Call for thought-provoking change. And we will see you Wednesday night or again on Monday.